Today we're going to talk about changing beliefs and especially negative beliefs around health and making them more positive. This is one of the number one things I see people block themselves mentally from making progress, is that they have a very short reductionist, and what I mean is oversimplified belief about health and fitness that really stops them from making progress by stopping them from considering alternatives to their current behaviors. And something that I hear a lot is people will say, I can't lose weight unless I starve myself. And this is what I mean by reductionist. It's very oversimplified, it's very extreme, almost to the point of being a cliche, that phrase, starving yourself. And if you really stop and look at it, you could see that it's probably not true that the only way that you could lose weight is to starve yourself. It may just mean that you have to push your comfort zone in trying new things, experimenting with new behaviors, incorporating food into your life in a different way, incorporating exercise into your life in a different way, but it's probably not starving yourself. And that is something that I've heard called a thought-stopping cliche, which is a very short, kind of quippy phrase that shuts down thinking. And this is something that we can all look for in ourselves in many different parts of life. But something that I want to specifically highlight in this program is, where might you be doing that around food especially, but also exercise? Another thought-stopping cliche, another negative belief that's very overly simplified I hear a lot is, I am not the kind of person who wants to live at the gym. And sometimes if an in-person client or an online client who I have a one-on-one relationship with says that to me, I'll ask them, do you think I live at the gym? And it's always amazing that once they have to put it together to a real person, people often realize of course, hardly anyone lives at the gym. Maybe some people do. But again, it's that idea of, it's a very easy, quick thing that just stops the person from having to consider alternatives and having to think about changing up behaviors, looking at things from a fresh perspective. So that's what I would look for in yourself this week, is where areas where you stop your own thoughts with a really short, quippy phrase. And something that this can be kind of rooted in too is identity. And this is something that for me, as part of my weight loss journey, I had to gain a lot of clarity around about 10 years ago, was how was my identity invested in my unhealthy lifestyle, and how much was it a circular reasoning pattern of, because my identity was invested in it, it became a self-protective way to not change and to not consider change, because change seemed so undesirable, because it would have changed things about myself that I liked about myself. I had built positive associations with being unhealthy, and by extension being overweight, and I had built negative associations with getting healthier, losing weight, improving my diet, improving my exercise, etc. And here's my example, is that when I was younger, I was far from being extremely overweight. I would say that I was overweight, but still, in that between overweight and obese category, because I do want to be clear that there is a spectrum, it's not black and white. I was unhealthily overweight. And at the time, I really had a positive association with, I'm not one of those girls who obsesses about her body. And this was a positive thing to me, that I was not shallow. I had depth. I was smart. I read books. I did well in school. I didn't waste time being frivolous and worrying too much about appearance. And the treadmill on that kind of ran out as I got a little bit older, not really, just young adulthood. And suddenly there started to be real health implications to what I was experiencing, in that it wasn't so cool to be the cool, smart, funny, whatever, well-informed person, when there were issues like I would just be so hot, I would feel like I was gonna die if I, walked the lakes at my university, or I just felt so out of shape. And there was a denial of, I'm not obsessing about my body, but the truth was there was a sort of obsession in the lack of healthy focus, in the sense that it was really hard for me to pick clothes that I felt good about and that I liked the way I looked. And that would create anxiety around social occasions or things like going to the beach or going to a pool. It created a lot of unnecessary anxiety, but I had that self-protective mechanism that said, but I'm not one of those girls who, fill in the blank. Once I did get healthier and I changed my lifestyle, I lost weight, I got very active, all of those things kind of happened in concert. I did realize that actually a lot of the people who I had been very judgy about, they didn't obsess about their bodies either. They just had a healthier lifestyle, which resulted in them being in better shape, leaner, feeling more confident about their bodies. And to be clear, there's not a confidence that starts at a certain percentage of body fat. I think often the confidence emerges from the self-care itself, regardless of where you end up on the scale or clothing size or anything like that. And I found that there's a difference between, focus and obsession, and that whenever I made that transition to acting as if I'm someone who cares about my body, a lot of confidence came directly from that. And I could see that my old self-protective thinking for exactly what it was. It was just a thought-stopping cliche to guard myself against having to consider change seriously, because I had so many positives invested in the way that I was. Because what did I find out? You can be lean, in shape, healthy, a healthy eater, someone who has a reputation as a healthy eater, maybe even more than I deserve. And I'm still well-read, well-informed. I have a sense of humor. I'm not obsessed with my appearance. I could go on, and I didn't lose the positives that I thought I would lose, that I had so invested in my identity. And I'm still that person, but just a healthier version of that person. And in many ways, a healthier whole person, because the reality is I caught that pattern at a very young age. And if I had kept going down that path, my physical fitness and my health issues that would have inevitably emerged would have limited what I could do in terms of impact and in terms of involvement. Because I know from seeing other people who are further down the road than me, is that it's very time consuming and very stressful to monitor chronic illness and lifestyle related chronic illness. And in many ways, it's just worth it. It's easier to take care of that and to keep the positive qualities that you have, that you're worried about losing. So that's something that's my personal story around it. And I encourage you to analyze that in yourself. And the way I would do it is, maybe you could just do it in your head, but I would also maybe keep a notes document on your phone or keep a journal and actively try to catch yourself in that thinking. And you'll recognize it because, like I said, it's a short thought. Like, it's just this little phrase that's like, yeah, but I'm not like that, or that's not me. Or, basically it's saying there's this change that I could make, but that's not me. That doesn't fit me. And when you have that thought, and it could be about anything, it could be about meal prep, it could be about daily exercise, something where you have a resistance around it that's just like, that's not me, and you see it as a negative thing. Pause, look at it, and ask yourself, like, well, why couldn't that be me? What am I afraid of losing? What are the benefits of changing? And then on the flip side, what am I thinking are the benefits of not changing? Is it even valid? And you can make a lot of headway in breaking down these really negative beliefs about life, about yourself, how you're limiting yourself. You can really break a lot of that down just through some practice and through some attention. And what you'll find is if you do this for a few weeks, you'll really start to see patterns that you have built an identity that is very self-protective. And we all do it. And we have it in different areas of life. So you may have resolved issues like this in other areas of your life, but maybe around food and exercise, there's a final frontier aspect of this is something that you need to work on and you need to examine. So be curious, be open to what might come up, be very unattached to, your identity, in the sense of the values that you think are very important for you to maintain for yourself in terms of your personality and your identity. And just consider, what are some alternatives? If I started going, a common one is, I can't live at the gym, like I said. Well, if you went to the gym every morning, is that living at the gym? Or would it just be going to the gym every morning? And get a little more literal and a little less cliche, a little less, it's jokey almost, a little less jokey, and just get literal. If I shopped for groceries once a week and prepped one meal that was my lunches, would that mean that I was obsessed with my food? If I focused on weight loss, would that mean that I was obsessed with my body and with my appearance? And you'll find that the hyperbole that you're using often doesn't apply. It's when you get literal, the hyperbole is not correct. It's not the same thing as what you're thinking. So that's what I invite you to do, is kind of dive into this mental self-inquiry of where your own thinking might be holding you back a little. And you might find it's holding you back a little. You might find that it's holding you back a lot, and that it's something you really need to work on. You may just find like a few little sneaky thoughts, but it's all worth, digging into, unveiling, and then, tackling one little thing at a time to see, what could you change about your self-concept that would ultimately liberate you even more to be a better version of yourself and to enjoy life more, even if it's counterintuitive or it runs, opposite to what you consciously think mentally. So this week is all about changing your beliefs, your negative beliefs about what healthy changes might mean in your lifestyle, what it might mean for your identity and your positive qualities that you already have, and what you're comparing yourself to, like what negative comparison you're trying to avoid. Are you trying to avoid criticism from other people? Is this something that you're projecting because you hear other people criticize people who watch what they eat or whatever it might be? So just take a look at that this week, and it's definitely good food for thought. So have a great week.